Welcome to Computing at Home with Digital Schoolhouse. Here we're delivering out-of-the-box computing activities that are accessible, educational and fun. To all learners watching, remember you can pause the video at any time to take notes, collect your thoughts or take part in the activity alongside me. Parents and guardians, you might want to watch the next bit as it explains how to access our resources, but after that feel free to join in or sit nearby to supervise if you want to. Let's get started. For paint by pixels, you will need some coloured pencils or pens and a copy of our blank grid. You'll find the link for this at the bottom of this video. If you'd prefer to access our resources via our website, go to digitalschoolhouse.org.uk, click on Resources, scroll down the page and find Playful Computing Activities, click on Activity Resources, click on Discover More, scroll down and find Paint by Pixels. We recommend that you use the PDF version of Paint by Pixels Sample Image Blank Grid. You'll need to print a copy of the second page, which is the blank grid. Alternatively, you can click on the magnifying glass and search for Paint by Pixels. Click on Search, and the result that you're needing is the first one in the list, and you'll find that the Paint by Pixels image blank grid is there ready for you to access. Feel free to pause the video now and collect your resources together. Let's have a little look at what we're going to be learning about in this activity. We're going to look at algorithmic thinking, decomposition, abstraction, generalization, evaluation, how computers represent images, and we're going to touch just a little bit on binary representation of images. Don't worry if any of these words are new to you, I'll explain more later. Okay, for the first part of this activity, you are going to need the blank grid and just two colours. So I'm just going to grab a green and a pink out of my pencil case, because that's all I'm going to need to start with. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture in the top grid. So I'm going to do this by just colouring in the squares. It's really important that you stay inside the square. You can't use half the square or anything like that, because what you're doing is you're actually drawing in exactly the same way as a computer does. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you look really closely at a computer screen, it's actually made up of lots of little tiny squares. And those squares are called pixels. So when you are colouring in the grid like we are now, you're actually colouring in just like a computer does, using squares or using pixels. Now, to keep things simple, we're just going to do two colours, because if we do a lot of colours, it becomes quite confusing at the moment, because we want to keep it fairly simple. So there we go. And what I'm going to do is now grab my other colour, and I'm just going to colour in the rest of my squares, because I need every square to be coloured in, because it's either coloured in one colour or it's coloured in the other colour. It can't be nothing. Okay, so colour it all in so that you have it completely coloured in. There we go. Excuse my slightly rushed colouring in. I'm sure yours is going to be a lot better than mine, because you can spend more time over it, and you'll be pausing the video, I'm sure, to get something looking really nice. Hopefully you can see this is a flower on some grass. So I went for something fairly simple for my drawing for you right now. I'm going to have to colour the middle in green, because I haven't got any other colours, unfortunately. We might talk a little bit about how more colours would be created later on. So I've finished colouring this in. Okay, into that corner there. This little bit here. Okay, and my last two pixels. There we go. That's all coloured in. Okay, so you can see my picture is coloured in. rather than just copying my picture, why not create something of your own? Okay, the next job is to identify the binary number for each of the colours. So in this case, my green squares, or my green pixels, are going to be ones, because binary only uses the numbers 1 and 0. And my pink is going to be 0. So what you need to do is allocate each colour a binary number, either a 1 or a 0. Once you've done that, you're now going to use those numbers in the grid below. So instead of actually colouring it in, you're going to fill it with the binary numbers. So everywhere there was a green pixel, I'm going to write a 1. So all of this was green, so I'm going to go all the way down using a 1 like that. It was green all along the bottom and all along the top and all the way down this side as well. Then if I look on mine, I've got 3 green, 2 pink and then 3 green. So I'm going to go 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and I've already got that 1. Then I can fill in the rest of my pink, just there and along the bottom and there, and I can fill in the ones as well. Okay, so now if I gave this to somebody else who knew my key, which is that green is equal to 1 and pink is equal to 0, they could follow my instructions and recreate the picture that I had drawn. And that's exactly what you're going to do next, because you're going to be following one of my instructions to recreate one of my pictures. I'm going to pause it now so you can finish off your drawing, and then when we restart, be ready for you to follow one of my instructions. Okay, and here is my instructions for my secret drawing. I suggest that you pause it so that you can recreate the drawing, and then when you're ready to find out whether you created it correctly, press play and see what my drawing was. And here you go. So I didn't actually have a black and a red, so I ended up drawing in a slightly different colour scheme. But as you can see, I have got something that looks vaguely like a retro Pac-Man ghost, and that's what he was meant to be. So hopefully you ended up something similar to me. I'd love to see your drawing, so please get your parents or guardians to tweet or put them on Facebook, and I'd love to see them. Now you understand how the instructions work using the binary numbers and the key, why not give your instruction to somebody else in your house and see if they can recreate your picture? So let's have a look at what we've learnt. First of all, algorithmic thinking. By following my instructions, the ones and zeros of my picture, you were able to recreate a picture at home completely distanced from me. So you followed my algorithm to recreate my picture. We also looked at decomposition. You broke a picture down into individual pixels. We looked at abstraction. My picture of a grass with some flowers really wasn't quite exactly what a flower looks like, but I had to do something that was a little bit of an abstraction. I'd taken out some of the unnecessary detail to give you a basic idea of a flower on some grass. You've also used some generalisation because we all used the same concept, but we would have all came up with a slightly different picture. Finally, in the computational thinking skills, you also used some evaluation skills. You thought about whether the picture you've drawn looked really good or whether it actually represented what you wanted it to look like. Also, we've looked at how computers represent images using pixels. And finally, we've touched on a little bit about binary, how the ones and zeros represent different colours. Now, I did promise I'd tell you a little bit about how to add more colours, and the reality is you have to have more numbers. So where we used a 1 to represent one colour and a 0 to represent another, you have to use more ones and zeros. So the number 2, for example, in binary would be 1, 0. So you could then represent another colour, and that's how the computers would do it. So more numbers, more colours. If you've enjoyed this activity, here are some suggestions of how you can take it further. You could use a spreadsheet to create the picture. All you need to do is make the cells in the spreadsheet into squares and then colour them in using the fill tool. Or you could work out how to use more binary, more ones and zeros, to represent more colours and add more colours to the pictures that you're creating on our grid sheets. Finally, Why not find out how binary numbers work and do a bit of research and find out how you can count to 10 using binary numbers? Thank you for taking part. I hope you've had fun and learnt something new. If you have any questions or feedback for me, please email dsh@ukie.org.uk. Now, we'd love to see you learning at computing at home with Digital Schoolhouse. Parents and guardians, please feel free to share any images or videos using the hashtag #computingathome on Twitter or on Facebook. You can find our contact information in the section below or at the end of this video. Lastly, I wanted to say a huge well done for taking part today. I'm Estelle and I look forward to seeing you next time.